That one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment.
And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. The newest show sensation streaming throughout the multiverse. Your hang place in cyberspace for paranormal news and views. Taboo Topics with Jean Broida.
Welcome, everyone, to Taboo Topics with Jean Broida. I'm your host, Jean Broida, also known as Lightworker 111, beaming to you from sea to shining sea, across the Americas and around the world every Sunday night between 7 and 9 p.m. Eastern Time in the United States and Canada on my YouTube channel, Taboo Topics with Jean Broida, at tabootopics.life/shows, and multicast on www.globalenlightenmentradionetwork.com. Panelists on Taboo Topics with Jean Broida read news articles about paranormal events, conspiracies, and other hush-hush subjects that we all probe further before moving on to the next taboo topic. And on today's show, today being May 3rd, 2020, can you believe it's already May? Please welcome our guest panelists, Margie K., Major MUFON Mover and Shaker, and Keith Ottersberg, first-hand, upfront, and personal paranormal experiencer. Margie K., please introduce yourself to our global audience.
Well, sure thing, Jean. Thanks for having me on. I've been an investigator of paranormal and UFOs for over 30 years, and I'm currently the Assistant State Director for Missouri MUFON and the Director of Quest Investigation Group. I've completed over 475 cases for MUFON alone, and at least 600 on my own. And I also do remote viewing. I've helped law enforcement solve over 50 cases for homicides and missing persons and large theft cases over the years. So I keep very busy. I also own Unex Media Publishing Company. I publish my own books as well as others. So I edit and publish other books, books for other people. And right now we're up to about 15 and looking for more. So anything, I prefer nonfiction books, so true stories about unexplained events and phenomena is what we're looking for. And I don't know, other than that, in my daytime, my day job is I'm a specialty chimney contractor. I own a company, and we have 14 employees, and we specialize in masonry work and chimneys. So you want to know about that stuff, I can help you out there too.
Talk about well-rounded.
It's called ADD. So I have to be doing a lot of different things at the same time, and just keeps me busy.
Well, I have to tell you that I was fortunate to hear you present to the St. Louis chapter of MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, about a year ago, I believe. And it was superb. Your presentation was superb. you chronicled an overnight sighting, as I recall, that was basically tri-state from, which is this area where the Missouri and Mississippi River and Ohio River come together, is apparently a hotbed of UFO activity. And you chronicled an overnight sighting from police officers' reports and points of view. And you mapped superbly. It was so good. What impels you, has led you to spending the care to craft such excellent presentations to bring to groups such as MUFON and other conferences?
Well, I actually started designing presentations in the chimney industry about 25 years ago. So I got a lot of practice doing that and doing presentations and teaching instruction. And then I moved that over to the paranormal world. And I just really enjoy putting together PowerPoint presentations and doing the research needed, and also creating workshops and training workshops and, just all types of things. Right now I have a workshop that's a remote viewing workshop where I teach other people how to do it my way, which is different from the norm. But it's what I call natural remote viewing that anybody can learn how to do. So I really enjoy teaching that.
Let's talk more about that a little later. But right now, Keith Ottersberg, welcome back to Taboo Topics with Jean Broida. Would you kindly talk a bit about yourself and what brings you back to the show?
Hey, thanks to be back. Wow, everything just went right out the window.
Isn't that the way it always is? I had it, but I lost it.
Yep, that's okay. My name's Keith Ottersberg. I run a paranormal group called Cobra Paranormal out of Whitmore, Nebraska. We are also the Nebraska chapter of the Spirit Mechanics, who are located in Kentucky. They help Amy Allen and Steve Shabby with the Dead Files cases sometimes. I was actually lucky enough to be able to assist them on one of those cases down in Florida, which was really neat. My team, we go above and beyond, going in to places and just, quote, investigate and try to get evidence. We go in, if the clients want evidence, we get them evidence. Otherwise, we use our abilities and our gifts in order to just go in and take care of things. We cleanse properties, we cleanse houses, we do attachment removal. I'm second degree Reiki.
Apparently my internet connection is unstable.
Uh-oh, can you hear me now?
I can. Well, that's never happened before. Me?
Yeah. I can hear you.
Margie, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, I can hear you. And
viewers, can you hear me? My goodness gracious, that was unexpected. My window blipped out. It really is being a paranormal. Who was it you, Keith, that said Pluto has gone retrograde?
Yes, Pluto's gone retrograde.
Yeah, I blame it on Pluto. So carry on.
I want to point out real quick too, I'm a big thing with numbers. When this happened, we were at 2222 on the time.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So where did you stop listening or hearing me?
Well, it wasn't that long ago, and I repeated it so I wouldn't forget, but I think I forgot. You were talking about going in with teams and cleansing.
Yes. Yeah, we go in and cleanse homes, cleanse properties, attachment removal. I'm second degree Reiki, so we can pretty much take care of anything that we need to. If by chance we run into some kind of entity that we haven't run into before, we don't know what's going on, I've got the spirit mechanics as backup. We can get a hold of them, have them come in and help, and we can help these people. A big thing that a lot of teams don't understand is aftercare. After everything's taken care of, you still need to be in contact with your clients, because removing long-term attachments is like pulling a drug from an addict. Their body, their mind is used to that negativity. They're going to try to drag it right back in. So it's a big part of it is aftercare. So we try to take care of that also.
Oh, awesome. And normally I would ask about events, but given current events, I'm not even going to ask about events.
Yeah, it's interesting. My normal everyday job is I manage a Napa Auto Parts store in Beatrice, Nebraska. Otherwise, I just hang around my home.
And assuming that we're still alive and on the air, which is my prayer and hope, after that major blip, I'm your host here on Taboo Topics with Jean Broida every Sunday night, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern, and on www.tabootopics.live/shows and multicast on Global Enlightenment Radio Network.com. I am Jean Broida, a lifelong UFO researcher, parapsychologist, conspiracy synthesist. I wrote a book called Unknown Objects, the Top 10 U.S. UFO Cases, to stitch a history of basic UFO understanding in the United States and misinformation, the campaign of misinformation, which is taking some very interesting twists and turns these days. But after reading my book, you'll understand why, without a shadow of a doubt, you must be crazy not to believe in UFOs. I am an avid news hound, and I will go to alternative sources to get truth as we see more and more media suppression, which is just disconcerting to say the least. I'm a regular contributor to thedailyconspiracy.com as Lightworker 111. Lightworkers shed light into the dark corners of existence, and those cockroaches skitter away, we hope, at least. And the 111 for synchronicity, just as Keith Ottersberg noted that my Zoom meeting window fritzed out and then it came back. I had a warning, my internet connection is unstable, and then everything fritzed out and it came right back on. And he said it was at 2:22 in the recording, which makes perfect sense if you think about it. In any event, I publish articles daily through the dailyconspiracy.com and other online publications. And I have a background in computer science, psychology, education, language, and I'm a practicing mystic and astrologer. I'm across the board, and I have no problem with stitching together a variety of disciplines. I'm a holist, and I see no problem with integrating physics and metaphysics. I've never had a problem in all of my life doing that. And a lot of us don't have any problem doing that, more and more having trouble with mainstream interpretations of things that are very rigid and exclude a lot of alternative point of view. And I'll get off my soapbox, but I will say it's encouraging that a growing number of awakened beings are beginning to question the societal impact that decades of cover-ups and lies from big governments all over the world have had on our societies and on us as individuals. And although I wrote these words months ago before what's going on now in society here on May 3rd, 2020, before the last 2 months unfolded, I wrote this: we are living in remarkable times as light workers are awakening to universal truths in numbers never before seen on Earth. This is even more now, apparently. Whatever effect is going on seems to be strengthening. Effects of consciousness, effects in society, effects, well, also in politics, of course, economy, everything interrelates. That's the holism of life. So we hope that you out there in viewerland will enjoy every topic we bring here tonight to Taboo Topics with Jean Broida, and we intend to shed light in those dark corners of reality as we know it. So let's begin talking about Taboo Topics. And I am thrilled to start us off with an article that I wrote for the dailyconspiracy.com. Just making sure there. And this was published April 27th. So this is fairly recent, about a week ago. The title is ISS Tracks Fleets of UFOs Headed for Earth. And unwritten is, of course, the music, bum bum, UFOs headed for Earth. And here we go. Is it time for another visit from our alien overlords? That is the question being kicked around among the ufologists who hang out on Conspiracy Street. UFO reports have skyrocketed in 2020, perhaps because many people laid off from work from the mandatory COVID-19 precautions that included the shuttering of businesses deemed non-essential, have more time to spend outdoors and looking out of windows. Or there might be more UFOs. Or there might be more UFO hoaxers. But we know that the International Space Station, ISS, is a trustworthy source where we can obtain any footage from the orbital platform. Well, get this. ISS recorded hundreds of lights moving toward Earth 10 days ago. Okay, so this would be now a little over 2 weeks ago. Gordon McKenna was reviewing NASA's live feed camera images on April 2nd, 2020, and spotted lots of UFOs moving purposefully in the same direction, which happened to be toward Earth. He called the groups of lights moving through the vastness of outer space a fleet. Now, at this point, you may want to check out the video that purports to show actual ISS streaming cam feed, and that is available online, and I will post that link in the show notes after the show. When you watch this video, which shows these lights allegedly from a NASA space camera, what are we looking at here? Some ufologists see an invasionary force hell bent for our beautiful blue marble. UFO sightings hotspot had already reported that, quote, a first wave of UFOs and unknown space anomalies and debris appeared in February through the first week of March, unquote. So the UFO fleet captured by ISS cameras is part of the second wave that started a week ago and is just one of the many formations that fly by, according to these researchers. And both of these waves, by the way, have come from the same direction. Video documentation from the orbital space station is hard for civilians to get. As I wrote before in an article titled UFOs Seen by NASA Near the International Space Station Again, quote myself, the sheer number of videos showing NASA live feed cutting out when a UFO appears is nothing short of shocking. UFO reports from around the world are on the rise. While most sightings occur at night, daytime observers have also reported mysterious lights above. For many years, an enormous volume of UFO footage has been captured in Mexico and Central and South American countries. Some military radar images were made public as that culture adapts to new information about the UFO phenomenon. And who might be steering a fleet of UFOs toward Earth? The oldest accounts of human origin exist within ancient Sumerian texts that have been translated and are well understood. So now the following information is not intended to offend anyone who holds a different belief system, but this is what some UFO researchers speculate might be true as we connect the dots despite difficulty getting reliable data. In a nutshell, the pragmatic and urbane Sumerians 3,000 years ago documented that a technology advanced alien race, the Anunnaki, needed gold to repair the atmosphere of their dying planet. Their home world, Nibiru, orbits our sun every 3,600 years in a long, drawn-out elliptical orbit. Imagine stretching out the ends of a flexible racetrack to make it longer and more narrow. When Nibiru makes a close approach to Earth, presumably every 3,600 years, the Anunnaki can take advantage of the celestial mechanics and hop on over to Earth to check in and take stock of the situation. At one of these close approaches, the Anunnaki determined that South Africa on Earth was rich in gold deposits. They landed in the Mount Sinai area and set up spaceports in North Africa. Finding gold mining too hard a toil for the slave race they brought with them to do this, called the Igigi, they managed, after a few attempts, to bioengineer Homo sapiens sapiens, human beings, a hybrid of Neanderthal man and their own genetic material. Man was created in their image to serve the creator gods, bred to be gold miners in the hot African sun, the cradle of civilization. Mining camps littered the South African landscape, as new archaeological evidence shows. And the scale of these mineral extraction operations is mind-boggling. There are also incredible fossil finds of giant-sized, anatomically correct organs, full hearts, complete hearts, and bones, some with meat still on them. Noah's flood wiped out the giants, called the Nephilim, and most of the humans. Only the few who heeded the angels' warnings survived the 40-day, 40-night, nonstop deluge. They were the seed for new generations. The world population in April 2020 stands at 7.7 billion. Is it time for another visit from the Anunnaki, who, thanks to the length of their solar year, live thousands of Earth years? If that happens, a scene remarkably similar to the one described in the biblical book of Revelation could occur, with an Anunnaki ruler taking the place of Jehovah. Perhaps Lords Enki and Enlil of the Sumerian texts themselves might show up to separate the obedient and faithful from the upstarts among their global flocks, as the Sumerian texts say will happen. ISS might just have revealed our alien overlords bearing down on Earth for a pop inspection to right the wrongs of humankind, their grand science experiment. So I just wonder what up with all these strange objects tracking in the direction of Earth, not to say they're coming to Earth, but the other layer of this, so two layers of this. One, are fleets of spacecraft heading toward Earth, and is Earth their objective? And second, why is it so hard to get good data from ISS, the International Space Station? So that's what I put to you, my esteemed guests, and I really appreciate both Margie Kay and Keith Ottersberg being here with me on Taboo Topics with Jean Broida. What do y'all think about this?
Well, that's an excellent article, and you bring up some points that everybody needs to know about and be aware of, and certainly need to do some reading, especially Zecharia Sitchin, in order to get a good background. The fleets of UFOs coming in, I have to say that I'm of the opinion that the ISS only captured a little bit of that. Because the reason I say that is because I've been studying the fast movers, what I coined this name, fast movers. They're very, very fast moving UFOs that are normally not able to be seen by the naked eye, but they can be picked up on infrared cameras. And I would assume, I have not seen that video yet, but I would assume that they are infrared cameras, because that is what has happened on prior missions with the space shuttle. They captured, remember that 12-mile tether incident, where they captured many, many UFOs, but they were only visible through the camera. And then there have been others, and especially recently, which I'll talk about in my article in just a minute. But those fast-moving UFOs, I'm able to see them with the naked eye, but only, I mean, I've seen them my entire life. I've seen things flit in and flit out very quickly. I believe they're probably interdimensional, a higher vibration, and I see them because I'm a psychic and a remote viewer. But I discovered something very interesting as of late, and that is if I ask them to slow down, they do. So it's long enough for me to get a really, really good look, at least 2 or 3 seconds, rather than, a 1/10 of a second. And I don't know if it's actually these objects getting a telepathic message, which we know they do sometimes, and slowing down, or I'm of the opinion now that I think what it is myself. I'm slowing time down for myself so that I can see these objects. But once you do that, and once you also capture these images on film using the solar obliteration technique, which is in my article and I'm going to talk about, you can capture them on film too. And there's thousands and thousands of them constantly coming in and out of our space. So it must be interdimensional, and it must be at a higher vibration than 3rd and 4th dimension, because otherwise everybody would be running into each other all the time. There would be
traffic
wrecks.
There'd be a huge traffic jam in space.
Right. So yeah, I can't wait to see that video.
Well, viewers, I will post the link on my YouTube channel, Taboo Topics with Jean Broida, and esteemed guest panelist. I have posted the link in our little chat window, so you can follow that right away. It's pretty amazing footage. It takes a little while to watch, but and I understand as a skeptic and as a technical person, a person who uses computers and uses Photoshop specifically, I understand that any image, any digital image, can be manipulated down to the pixel level. But enough about me. Keith, what do you think about ISS, secrecy, and all this stuff?
Hey, again, I got to point out the numbers. Right there was 41 minutes and 11 seconds, 4111.
I'm lost and now I'm found, or I'm found and now I'm lost.
Yeah. It's interesting timing with this, because here a couple weeks ago, like I said, I live in Nebraska. We got off at Air Force Base up in Omaha, and there were reports of UFOs over Omaha, Nebraska, and they scrambled some jets. Wasn't easy to get the information, but it has been verified. I got an inside person up there. It happened. I've seen them myself before, quite a few times. I've actually had an abduction experience. And then 2 weeks afterwards, I broke my hand, went and got it x-rayed. And in my thumb, I have a foreign object that the doctors cannot tell me what it is. They say it's not plastic, it's not metal, it's not wood.
Is that lump in your hand there?
Mm-hmm.
Point to it for viewers who are having trouble.
It's
Can you point to it with your other hand? I could see it there very clearly. The way you had your hand flexed back there like that.
Let me get my camera set down.
I don't mean to give you the 3rd degree.
There you go. No, it's okay. It's like right in this area right here. It's smaller than a grain of rice, but it shows up plainly on. I still got the pictures of the x-rays. I'll have to send those to you.
Yeah. It's good.
It was really weird. I'm going down the road looking for hunting spots in the middle of the afternoon. My truck starts dying and cutting out. The radio starts cutting out. Next thing I know, I'm waking up an hour later, 10 miles away at a stop sign.
Yikes.
And then that. So And during that incident at the Air Force Base, while that was going on, everybody's freaking out. I actually got a message that says, "Don't worry, we're here to help."
I'm glad you said that, because my next question was, have you ever had a sense of impending doom, warning, bad
No.
things coming, head for sanctuary?
I do get that sometimes, like right before earthquakes, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's nice.
But with this, I kind of started looking. I went in my zone, and he plainly said, "Don't worry, we're here to help." I'm, okay. And that was it. During this whole coronavirus thing, I have been very calm. I'm not worried about anything. We're going to come out of it okay. We just got to be a little patient. Things are going to be a little bit different. We can get used to that. What was happening wasn't working. The way we were doing things wasn't working. So just be patient. We'll get there. But I think we're going to have a lot more UFO sightings, maybe some more abductions. There are more than one group here.
Yeah, there's hundreds of races, right?
Oh, yeah.
Margie, you know all about that too, right?
You bet. I've seen them.
And have you had a close encounter? I'm trying to remember.
I've had multiple close encounters. I've been in contact with specific extraterrestrials for years, for my whole life.
Are they given warnings or encouragement, or both?
Well, actually, do you know who Valiant Thor is?
I do. I just wrote a little article about Valiant Thor.
Okay. Well, I've been in touch with him since 1985. And I recently asked him about this coronavirus. He told me that they have been visiting with world leaders as of late about the coronavirus, and they have offered a cure to the entire thing.
Okay, so let's stop right there for viewers who don't know Valiant Thor.
Okay.
Margie, bring them up to speed.
Okay, Valiant Thor is an extraterrestrial. He looks human for the most part.
He showed up in 1955?
1957 to 1961. He visited the Pentagon. Well, he was their guest, quote.
Claimed to be from the planet
Venus.
Yes.
And living inside the planet Venus with his family.
And he came with an entourage, right?
Oh yeah, a big entourage, a fleet. He is the commander of a large fleet. And he and his brother and some other crew members visited the Pentagon, visited Dwight Eisenhower, the president, and they offered them some things at that time, like no more illness, no more disease, if we would do certain things. And they came back and told him, no, we can't do that because it would destroy our economy. So if people want to know more about that, if they get the book Stranger at the Pentagon by Dr. Stranges, Dr. Frank Stranges was contacted by Valiant Thor and invited to go to the Pentagon to speak with him. And then Dr. Stranges wrote a book about him, and actually 2 or 3. But evidently, Valiant Thor has been in touch with a number of people around the world. And I happen to be one of them. He's been in contact with me since I was a child, speaking in my ear and talking to me. He didn't appear to me until I was older. But when in 1985, he physically appeared on a wall to me in Seattle, Washington, where I was living with my two children and my brother. And he appeared on the wall. He took over my massage therapist and spoke through him. And he said to me, do you want to try a light experiment? And I said, okay, because I knew that was not my massage therapist talking anymore. It was someone else, but I didn't know who. And he says, okay, look at this green light, and look at this red light, and look back and forth. And then he said, now look at me, and what do you see? Well, I saw a skeleton standing there. No, nothing else, just a skeleton standing there talking to me. And I said, well, I see your skeleton. And then on the wall to my right, this head appeared on the wall. And it was a face of a man, and he had a helmet on that came to a point in the middle of his head and came around to the front of his ears, it looked kind of like an M. So I called that an M helmet. Well, anyway, I won't go into the M helmet. Thor said to me, now you have my name is Thor. That's all he said. And now you have X-ray vision. And I will be in touch with you in the future. And then he disappeared. And I was like, what happened? Well, anyway, it turns out, long story short, he has helped me develop my abilities over the years. And that was one of them. So now I can scan the human body and find parts where there's a problem, areas where there's a problem, tell somebody and they can get it taken care of. And it's extremely accurate. I am very, very accurate with that. But that is because of Valiant Thor. Well, Thor is here to help advance humanity, to raise consciousness, and he has assigned some of us, including me, my job is to help raise consciousness of the planet. And so, or at least a group of people to help the entire planet. He recently told me that they've been in touch with the world leaders. They have offered them, once again, cure for all diseases, no more illness for anyone on the planet. In exchange for that, we have to agree to stop fighting, stop wars, end nuclear weapons, and actually let them remove the nuclear weapons off the planet. They will take them off planet, all of them. And we also have to work together as a global unit, as a unified globe. Well, obviously that has not been agreed to yet because we still have the coronavirus going on and we still have war. But I'm hopeful, crossing my fingers, that they'll change their mind and make the right decision.
War is historically good for economies, bad for individuals.
Right. Exactly.
Unless you're one of the capitalists who profits from it. And I'm not anti-capitalism by any means, but it occurred to me recently, the last politicians who talked about peace in any serious way were the likes of Jimmy Carter and John F. Kennedy Jr. And lately, well, the younger generations of people in the United States who have been born since year 2000, certainly since 9/11, 2001, people who are 20 years old have never lived in a world where any political leader talked meaningfully about world peace. It's always a war on this, a war on that. And now I'm really alarmed about this war on a germ, war on flu. I'm really alarmed at and I've avoided getting into this on the show, but it is Taboo Topics. And by the way, if you just tuned in, welcome to Taboo Topics with Jean Broida, broadcast every Sunday night, 7 to 9 p.m. on my YouTube channel and on tabootopics.life/shows and simulcast on the Global Enlightenment Radio Network.com. It chaps my cheeks that this virus, I actually have a letter here from the White House signed, stamped by President Trump, and I'll make no judgment on him pro or con, but they are calling this war on an unseen enemy. War on an unseen enemy. Don't buy it. There's no war here. This should be, this response should be based on facts, not emotion. So fear is an emotion and fear mongering is despicable. And that's what seems to be going on. When we look at the facts, it didn't hurt to be prepared, but it was an overreaction. And the globalists who want the total control apparently are just going to use they have all the cards. It's like, well, we skirted the numbers down. We flattened the curve because we did the social distancing. We have to do it forever and ever and ever. And then I have people ask me, do you think the aliens are amassing and heading this way to show up to help us out? I'm like, I get no sense of that. If anything, they're here to watch the show and maybe lay bets, but I don't feel as if any particular species has that much of a vested interest in us in other words, Thor came along, whether he's actually from Venus or somewhere else that we can't pronounce and couldn't even conceive of. And Venus is just convenient because we can get a handle on it. how many times do these beings show up and make these offers? How many times are they refused? You know what I'm saying? How many times the world leaders just say, no, it's bad for our economy and bad for national security, and who cares about human rights? And I could go on all the show for that. I'm really upset by that. And I don't want to be upset. I'm a light worker. I want to get stuff done. Keith, haven't heard from you in a while. I'm going to mute myself. Take it away.
It's also interesting that his name is Thor, god of thunder. To the Vikings, Thor. So how long has this guy been around? It kind of makes you think. A lot of that, Will, and on this virus thing, I'm going to be real brief on it. It was manufactured to be used as a bioweapon. It did not hit the numbers like they wanted it to. A Chinese doctor was arrested leaving our country, smuggling 21 vials of this stuff in his socks to the Wuhan lab. He had worked there. Bill Gates funds the Wuhan lab and the World Health Organization. It's all about the money. Vaccinations now. Oh, now let's throw in a chip so we can track you. No thanks, ain't buying it. All in all, it's a real virus. It's out there. It hits people with pre-existing conditions. Most people have it and don't even know it. They really missed the mark on what they were trying to do. But yeah, the entire response was crazy. It was nuts. Shutting down an entire world economy for something that hits most people like the common cold, or doesn't even give them any effects. It's just nuts. But what my article is, yeah, go ahead.
Before we move on, Margie, any last thoughts about ISS? Why do you have any sense a fleet is bearing down on Earth? And if so, any purpose for that?
Well, like I said, I don't think there's a fleet bearing down. Valiant Thor told me that there are always negative entities that have been trying to, and sometimes get through, and they take minerals from the earth, and some live inside the middle of the earth, and they want to take advantage of the planet in some manner, but they are, for the most part, guarding us from the negative entities. I do not believe that fleet that was seen is something that's coming here to wipe us all out. I think they would protect us from that. In fact, I believe we have weapons that are on space stations right now around the planet ourselves. The governments have to protect us with serious weapons. But no, like I said earlier, I think they're fast movers, and they vibrate at a higher vibration. They're higher speed, and they move at a higher speed most of the time. And they're just going in and out of dimension. I don't think it's anything. It's not going to be Independence Day. Let's put it that way.
Well, that's a relief.
Yeah. And then to Keith's point, I 100% agree with you on everything that you said.
As do I.
So if anybody is looking at this situation and doesn't think there's a mass conspiracy, they've got their head in the sand. That's all I'm going to say about it.
This is so weird. I started covering this COVID-19 story in January when it first broke, and there was just something about it that smelled of conspiracy. And I'm paid to write conspiracy synthesis articles, and I could never have imagined, even being psychic, I could never have imagined where this thing went. This is socioeconomic impact and the liberties that Americans are giving up. And I'm considering having a show maybe next week's dedicated to encouraging people to consider the turning point we're at in our society, American society right now, because it's troubling. It troubles me. It's a sense of disturbance in the
Yes, I agree.
And everything he said is right. This thing was this virus is apparently engineered with U.S. and other money in a lab at North Carolina then smuggled back to China, further engineered and perfected and branded, and then released, whether accidentally or on purpose, to the general public in Wuhan. The globalists who are health Nazis had run a simulation 6 weeks before the beginning of December, in mid-October, where they ran a simulation about a global pandemic based on a bat virus, a bat coronavirus, which we think Wuhan virus probably is, based on evidence we have. And that, guess what? This pandemic broke out at Wuhan. What are the odds? It could be coincidence. It could be, but maybe not so much. The whole thing smells not only the event, but what Keith said, where the globalists tried to launch a true pandemic. And when that fizzled, probably because Americans are just so robust and we're so spread out, we don't get an Italian effect unless we're in New York City. I read this amazing statistic. South Dakota and Wyoming are sparsely populated, okay? Wyoming has, South Dakota has 7 people per square mile, and South Dakota has 7 people per square mile. Wyoming has 11 people per square mile. New York City has 22,000 plus people per square mile. So the social sanctions put on a highly urban and compact pack and stack neighborhood, very different from where the buffalo roam. And this cookie cutter solution to this thing, this non-event, it's basically a non-pandemic in the United States, thank goodness. But these health Nazis are like, well, we can't let down our guard, otherwise it will become a pandemic. And it's just, they've got us by the short curlies. They've got us by the short curlies, folks, because it's an unseen enemy. Letter from the White House, unseen enemy. Just say no. It's nonsense. No more wars on concepts. We had war on drugs, didn't work. We've had war on terror, didn't work. We still got terror. We have war on a germ. We're going to still have germs, always have germs. People die of diseases, sorry to say. All right, well, I'm off my soapbox.
Yeah.
Okay. Another interesting thing is they're telling everybody to wear masks. Stay in your homes. Don't go out. Our immune system relies on us going out and coming into contact with germs, and that's how it stays strong. That's how it stays healthy, along with our diet and everything else. So when we're in our houses and we're cleaning and disinfecting everything, guess what we're doing to our immune system? We're weakening it. So nobody's going out. When we do get let out, they're already calling for a second wave of this. Why do you think that's going to be? Because everybody's got compromised immune systems. I'm lucky I get to go to work every day. I go out, I work in my garden, I dig in the dirt. When I was a kid, I ate dirt,
I ate dirt, I ate worms. I actually ate cigarette butts, much to my mother's horror. And I had an allergy test recently. I'm allergic to almost nothing. Virtually nothing, which is perplexing to my Chinese doctor because I have a black meridian that my immune system is being triggered by something. But, there's a lot of things those tests don't test for. And that could lead us into COVID testing. But instead, let's go the other way. Let's go to Keith Ottersberg article for tonight's episode of Taboo Topics with Jean Broida. Welcome, everyone. It is Sunday, May 3rd, 2020. Can you believe it? Keith, what have you for us tonight?
Okay. I've been talking with a lot of people here lately in the paranormal world about the soul. Especially with all these people passing from, this virus. Everybody's wondering what happens to the soul when the body dies. So I picked an article off of livescience.com by Robert Lawrence Kuhn. He's the one that wrote this. It is, does your self have a soul? Let's see here. And these are my readers. Lost my good glasses, so bear with me while I'm trying to read this tiny print. Most religious claims that there is more to the self than the brain. The traditional understanding that human sentience and selfhood are conveyed via some kind of non-physical substance, often called a soul. Though the soul is far out of favor with most contemporary philosophers, a few distinguished scholars defend and scrutinize the idea of a self that is founded on the soul and extends beyond the physical and could survive after the body dies. Even so, those scholars diverge on the concept, with some saying the soul is crucial to personal identity, though perhaps it cannot be separated from the physical body. Another idea is that the soul is an information-bearing pattern that connects the living self with the afterlife person who lives forever. And still another scholar suggests the soul, as it were, is a sort of existential unity, of successive stages of the brain over a person's lifetime. If you want to tell the whole story of the world, you must say what objects are in the world, what substances are there, and what properties they have at different times. Swinburne said on Closer to Truth, his article. Of course, that will include all of the physical objects, all the tables, all the chairs, all the planets and atoms. But of course, that won't tell the whole story. You'll also have to tell the story of conscious life, which is associated with each body. Swinburne asserted that in order to tell the full story to the world, or of the world, one must pick out subjects and experiences, not just by the experiences they have, not just by the physical bodies with which they are associated, but also with separate mental entities for which the natural word is soul. If you can't bring soul into the account of the world, you will not tell the full story of the world, because you will not tell who has which conscious life. If the only things were physical objects, including bodies and brains, we would not be able to distinguish a case where you have the body which is presently yours, and I have the body which is presently mine, from the case where you have the body which is presently mine, and I have the body which is presently yours, he added. The soul is what distinguishes that. If physical properties and mental properties were just properties of bodies, there would be no difference between these cases. But because there are obvious differences between you and me, Swinburne claimed that there must be another essential part of me which goes where I go, and this is what we can call my soul. Swinburne stressed that his argument for the existence of a soul, that souls constitute personal identity, and the continued existence of me will consist in the continued existence of my soul, is quite apart from what might happen in the world to come. In other words, Swinburne said that his claim about the reality of a non-physical soul does not depend on theological revelation and his own religious belief. As to the relationship between the body and soul, Swinburne is ambivalent. Maybe, of course, a soul can't function on its own, he said. Maybe it can only function when associated with a body. In that case, my continued existence would consist in it being joined to a body again, perhaps an entirely new body. I think a soul could exist on its own, but not a great deal turns on that. A body is required, Swinburne said, because for us to interact with others, to recognize others, we need different public characteristics. I asked Swinburne to speculate on the existence of, I asked Swinburne to speculate on the essence or composition of such a soul. Is it a differentiated substance? What's to prevent your soul from getting mixed up with my soul? The difference between souls is ultimate, unanalyzable by anything else, Swinburne responded. A soul has no extension. It has an immaterial particular, to use an old-fashioned philosophical term. It does, of course, have characteristics, properties. It has thoughts, feelings, attitude, and so on. But the way we distinguish in practice between souls is in terms of the bodies with which they are associated, because the difference between your soul and my soul being ultimate does not consist in their relationships to our respective bodies. There is, of course, nothing paradoxical about the difference between souls being unanalyzable, because some differences must be ultimate. If you can analyze A by B, B by C, and so on, you eventually get to things which you can't analyze. And the differences between human souls, in my view, are one of those things. This is why the only way souls have a public presence is through their attachment to bodies. And he goes on into the afterlife of the soul. Physicist and angelical priest John Polkinghorne gets to a similar religious result for the meaning and purpose of the self, but he achieves it via different religious formulation. He agrees with fellow scientists that patterns and information carry the self, but as to what follows, that kind of covers everything in a nutshell. Basically, what they're trying to say here is, if we did not have a soul, we couldn't interact. We would just be a body and a brain. You would be a body and a brain. I wouldn't know if I was me and you, or vice versa. It's our soul that allows us to know that. It's our soul which gives us our own life experience. Granted, your upbringing, that determines who you become as a person a lot, but a lot of it does have to do with your soul. I can't remember the doctor's name, but they actually did an experiment, and they weighed people that died. They had them on a table with a scale, and when that person passed away, 21 grams. They lost 21 grams. When your body dies, your body runs on electricity, chemical energy, and science has proven energy cannot be destroyed. It can only change forms.
I read that. There was this part in the middle where you were quoting the first author, okay? Mm-hmm. Swinburne, or it might be Swinburne. If he's British, okay, it would be Swinburne. But in any event, whatever it is, he was saying he was stitching together a logical chain, okay? Mm-hmm. And he making a case for, we need a soul to do something, and I had it, but I lost it. Do you know what I'm talking about? We need a soul to interact with each other, or something along that line. And my thinking was, this jives a lot with my paradigm, where we are eternal beings who exist in a formless form until we, if and when we decide to incarnate in a material body, and Earth is one place you can do that. You can't do that everywhere, but it is one place you can do it. Some people think it's a prison planet where many of us have to do it, which is a whole nother kettle of fish. But did you find the part in that article I'm talking about where he's stitching together these logical thoughts and says, and therefore, basically, we need a soul because of this and thing? Yeah.
He's just saying that, in order for us to distinguish ourselves from other people, we need a soul.
Oh, there we go. Well, that makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. We wouldn't be able to, I wouldn't be able to distinguish myself from you. We'd just be bodies and brains.
And that explains the difference between identical twins.
Yeah, they're two separate people, but they're identical, down to, their DNA.
And their genetics are identical, right?
Personalities.
But they can have completely contrasting personalities.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What do you think, Margie?
Well, I agree with most of it. I mean, in my experience as a medium, speaking with people who have passed on, I know that the soul lives on. I've been told by my guides and ET guides that souls live forever, and when they're in between lives, they're doing work as well, but they're not in a physical body. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm glad people are talking about that. It gets people thinking. There's a lot to it. There's a lot we probably won't understand until we actually cross over, and then we'll be conscious of what's happening. But in fact, the light bodies, I was told during a session by an ET once that all of our light bodies stay with us as well. And just the single physical body that dies, that can't live forever, but the other bodies can live forever. And so that explains why some of the spirits, Keith, I know you've done a lot of work with paranormal, and Jean, you too. When you see a body form and it is the exact duplicate of what it was in life, that's one of their light bodies, their astral body or their etheric body showing themselves to us. And so, no, I firmly believe that it is totally true. We're not ourselves without our soul in our bodies, for sure.
Correct. And another interesting aspect is, we talk about guides, spirit guides, as above, so below. Some people believe that when you come back, you can split off a part of your soul, leave it in the light plane, and guide yourself through your human life. We are a light body, a spirit, a soul, having a human experience on this planet. When we die, we go back to a light body and we reascend. We sign soul contracts when we come back. Okay, I want to go back and learn this lesson this time. Who's going to help me? So you sign the soul contracts. Your soulmates, come and they help you learn your lessons, which gets into twin flames. One soul split into two bodies, destined to come back, find each other, and rejoin. It's a very interesting philosophy if you look into it. And once I started that, I actually went through the twin flame journey, learning, and that's really helped me personally, as learn and grow as a person. We get upgrades all the time. We may not realize it. You might feel a little fluey for no reason, headaches in your third eye, dizzy all of a sudden. Might last for 2 or 3 days. You might go into real bad depression, then all of a sudden, boom, you're great. You're better than you were before. We get upgraded. Our vibration enhances as we personally grow, as we get our shadow work done and get things out of us. That makes our soul lighter, makes us glow more, your aura.
Yeah, it does.
And a lot of people object to this kind of a theory, saying, why on earth would anybody choose to be born into poverty or war or pestilence, anything? And the answer is because life as an eternal being becomes boring. And we can come into physical bodies to have experiences. And Buddha talked a lot about learning through joy or suffering. Only 2 ways to learn: things that make you extremely happy or extremely sad and that are painful. And that's a very apt description of what's going on in society now. Keith says he's kicking back, taking things in stride, as am I. But as an observer, I'm distressed by socioeconomic conditions. Yet, as a light worker, I know what I need to do, and I'm doing it. And Margie has touched on this as well. Our purpose, all of us here, our purpose, as I see it, is to raise consciousness. And just like tuning in old-fashioned radio where you had the twisty knob, we can, if we make an effort to tune to their frequency, and they tune down, maybe we can meet in the middle there somewhere. And those people like YouTube are classic examples of people who have worked on your receiver sets. You've done your personal work to invite communications that are meaningful and helpful to humanity. This is the focus that I like to keep in mind, and that I encourage all viewers to keep in mind. And if you just tuned in, welcome to Taboo Topics with Jean Broida, broadcast every Sunday night between 7 and 9 p.m. Eastern Time on my YouTube channel, Taboo Topics with Jean Broida at tabootopics.life/shows and simulcast on the Global Enlightenment Radio Network.com. We're just talking about making a case for the soul. And I don't know that I've ever actually met anyone who didn't believe in souls. We've got mind, spirit, and soul. And it seems to me, what do you guys think of this? It seems to me that mind is what develops after we incarnate, okay? And it is fed by soul, who is an accumulation of all experiences, both in the body and out of body. And spirit is what animates our body. And so when people die, it's probably both spirit and soul that are departing. And I believe, now that I'm thinking of it, I believe Egyptian myth, or Egyptian, I hate to call it myth because it's what they really believed, you know, according to Egyptology, the personality has these spirits, the Ka, these parts, the Ka, the Ba, and they do different things. And set me on the right track here. Am I barking up the right tree? Spirit, soul, mind.
Absolutely. Yes. I believe that too. And I've been told that. So, and it makes sense if you think about it. You know, truly, if a person were to analyze it scientifically, that's all it can be, because they cannot take an inanimate body and force it to come alive. It has to have a soul to go into that body. You know, that's the way it is. And I think, you know, one of the good things that's going to come out of this quarantine situation is people going, seeking knowledge and getting new information and going inside themselves and having quiet time and meditating. That's when we get raising consciousness. And this could be one of the reasons that this is happening. Even, you know, it seems like all negative, but maybe it's not.
People are doing their shadow work finally. They're getting forced to. But when, you know, for the
Just
last...
explain that term, shadow work. That's a new one for me. What's that, Keith? Explain shadow work. Please.
Okay, shadow work is essentially looking in the mirror, looking at yourself, deep inside yourself. You may not want to realize it, but you may have an issue. Okay, it's hard to even come up with an example. There's something about you that you're not comfortable with. Maybe something happened in your teenage years and you buried it, you put it away. You thought you dealt with it, but no, it's been sitting here all your life. Shadow work is, okay, I see it again, let's get this out.
So like looking at your own dark shadows and bringing them back to memory, back to mind.
The way I do it is I take whatever I'm dealing with, I bring myself out as a third party, I watch this happening. It's like, okay, now I know why this happened. I see that lesson. And when things happen, we attach emotion to them. Once we figure out why and what happened, why it happened, we realize, okay, there wasn't anything I can do about this. I have no guilt. It's not my fault. You can remove that emotion, give it to the universe. Then it's a memory and a lesson. And emotion doesn't hit you like it used to anymore. And you can go through this over and over and over. There's something called dark night of the soul, where you go into such a deep depression, you look at everything in your life and you come out questioning everything, right down to, why am I sitting in this chair right now? Why?
So you were saying that you think the social restrictions have a benefit, that people have opportunity now.
Yes.
And perhaps also due to this, what we suspect to be an awakening phenomenon, we metaphysicists suspect to be an awakening phenomenon, that people now have the time and opportunity
It's like
to
the
look
planet.
within themselves at those dark corners of maybe childhood blockages kind of stuff. Things holding them back, excess baggage, emotional baggage.
Getting rid of it.
I would call it baggage.
Yeah, getting rid of it. They're looking inside themselves. They might not even realize they're doing it. But there are more people raising their consciousness and enlightening right now than ever before. We are raising the vibration of the earth. We have done some mass meditations and actually changed the Schumann resonance of the earth while we were doing the meditations. And it wasn't just a little change. It was huge, huge. So the more people that we get to raise their vibration, the more it's going to help the planet itself.
Yes, and since that's been going on the past few years, that it also causes some chaos along with it, because the people who are of a much lower vibration cannot deal with that high vibration so much, and it's very disconcerting physically and mentally. And so it causes, some people actually might go crazy because of it. Mentally can't handle the shift. But it's something that needs to happen. We have to advance the planet, and those who have been light workers, and those who have worked on raising their vibrations are having an easier time of it. Although I will say this, I have been having terrible dizzy spells the past couple of years, and it always seems to be right before an earthquake somewhere. And so I would just really like to not have that happen anymore. But for the most part, yeah, I totally agree with Keith that the planet has raised vibration exponentially, and we're headed into fifth dimension. There's just no doubt about it, higher dimension. And it's also a reason we're seeing more UFOs, because they are fifth dimensional, and we're raising our vibration enough that we can see them.
That right there. Yes, I agree with everything you just said. You nailed it. As we raise our vibration, the lower vibrational people, they can't stand to be around us.
Right.
And they'll stay behind in three dimension is what I understand.
And that's
and as far as they are concerned, nothing will have happened. Nothing will have changed.
Right. But we can feel it. We can see it. We can feel it. And that's what's supposed to be happening right now. The separation. There's a reason for it. I'm not exactly sure what it is yet, but there is a reason for it.
Any clues on that, Margie, from your intel?
I'll tell you what, there are some things that we don't get answers to. I've asked that questions many times, and I've been told the whole thing about we're going through fifth dimension, we're raising vibration of the entire planet and individuals, and that some of us have been assigned to, it's one of us light workers per every 10,000 people. And so we have like responsibility for raising the vibration of 10,000 people. And that happens. Here's a neat thing that I was told about this. Thor told me this. He said, simply by being in your presence or near you, the people around you, their vibration raises, even if you don't speak a word to them. Even if they don't ask you any questions, you don't have a conversation, just being in your presence helps raise their vibration. And
I've heard that all along, Margie, and I've seen it happen. Go ahead. I've seen it. I've seen it. Just walking into a place, smiling and giving off positive vibrations affects people. They relax, they breathe more deeply, they start smiling too. If you go in all clenched and people model, partly it's monkey see, monkey do, but there is a psychic component to it, I'm sure.
Yeah, your aura.
Go ahead, Margie, I interrupted you. I got excited. Go ahead.
No, I mean, that's it. Basically, I think that's what we're charged with doing right now. And that's what we can understand right now. And that's what we need to work on.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought that topic, Keith, because we need, it just seems to be we as a species could spend more time thinking about souls, spirits, mind, facts, emotions, everything, the itness and the whatness. The Western world has become so practical as to be almost, well, certainly anti-spiritual, but religions are also getting beaten up as well. So what's left for people to believe in? Well, we need to believe in ourselves, for one thing, and for the commonalities that bind us all as eternal beings of light. But unless you get that, somehow, whether you intuit that it's correct, which is what I did when I first encountered these notions, my psychic self said, yes, that's right. That's right. And I kept being led to good source material, as I'm sure both of you were too. And for viewers who've just tuned in, welcome to Taboo Topics with Jean Broida. My illustrious guest panelists tonight on our Paranormal Roundtable are Margie Kay and Keith Ottersberg. Welcome back, Keith, and welcome, Margie. I know I'll be having you back if I can corner you. I know you're busy too, but this is the time to move on to Margie's article on some taboo topic. Take it away.
Okay. All right. I just posted this today on my blog. I normally don't talk about myself in my articles, but I had to in this one. You'll see why. The April 27, 2020 Pentagon release of 3 videos of UFOs is clear evidence for what I've coined the fast movers. After researching UFOs for over 30 years, there is no question in my mind that other intelligent life forms exist, but they are elusive and in most cases move so fast that they cannot be perceived by the human eye until now. In an unprecedented move, the Pentagon released 3 classified videos taken by U.S. Navy pilots that appear to be unidentified flying objects. The Navy just put the 3 videos titled FLIR, Go Fast, and Gimbal on its Freedom of Information Act page, which is a repository for documents released under the federal law that allows for the full or partial disclosure of U.S. government information to the public. The clips were first released in 2017 and 2018 by the New York Times and To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science, a UFO research group from the former Blink 182 member Tom DeLonge. The infrared video was filmed in 2004 by 2 Navy fighter pilots with the Nimitz Carrier Strike Group 100 miles into the Pacific Ocean. They captured a tic-tac shaped UFO around 40 feet long and oval in shape. The 2015 videos were filmed off the East Coast by an FA-18F fighter jet using the aircraft's onboard Raytheon ANASQ-228 Advanced Targeting Forward-Looking Infrared Pod. The videos were leaked in 2017 without authorization. One of the pilots said of the 2004 video, "As I got close to it, it rapidly accelerated to the south and disappeared in less than 2 seconds." Retired U.S. Navy pilot David Fravor told CNN in 2017, "This was extremely abrupt, like a ping pong ball bouncing off of a wall. It would hit and go the other way." In one of the 2015 videos, a voice can be heard saying, "There's a whole fleet of them." There's your fleet again, Gene. Another voice adds, "They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots to the west. Look at that thing, dude." In an effort to clear up any misconceptions by the public on whether or not the footage that has been circulating was real, the DoD, who had previously confirmed the videos were filmed by the U.S. Navy, had made all 3 clips public. The incredible speed of the UFOs indicates that they are fast movers. The fact that the videos were captured using FLIR infrared technology is an indication that the objects exist out of our range of sight using the naked eye outside the visible light spectrum. Nevertheless, they do exist, and now they're being captured on film with infrared photography in this case, but in others, standard film cameras. And then I have a link to the video. Bill Spicer discovered a technique for capturing UFOs on film using what he calls the solar obliteration technique, or SOT. He was shown this method in a dream. After trying it, he discovered that it works well. Bill has shared this information with several other researchers, and they've also had success with it. The method involves covering the camera lens with polarized sunglasses, then aiming in the direction of the sun just inside an overhang, such as a roof. The results are astonishing and show hundreds or thousands of fast-moving craft during almost any photographic session. Wayne Lawrence, a MUFON investigator and video analyst, discovered that by slowing down a video of UFOs taken by himself and others and looking at it frame by frame, he could find multiple aerial objects and even track them and find their speed based on the location in each frame. Some of the objects captured were moving at hundreds or thousands of miles per hour. In one famous Kansas City case in June of 2019, where thousands of witnesses observed 3 UFOs over the city for 6 hours, Lawrence was able to find UFOs in the videos that were moving in excess of 8,000 miles per hour. As for myself, I've been able to see them with the naked eye by using quantum telepathy and remote viewing. I had not figured out until recently that what I've seen were actual craft, but indeed they are the same types of objects that both Bill and Wayne have been able to capture on film. By willing myself to slow down time, I can get a good look at them. Don't ask me how that works. I just want it to happen, and it does. Bill and Wayne agreed to co-author a book with me called The Fast Movers, Evidence of High-Speed UFOs / UAPs. It'll be published on June 1st, hopefully. And then I've got my unxmedia.com for more information about that. So the 3 of us collaborated on this project. Basically, I talked them into it because they have different takes on this. Bill uses telepathy to contact the UFOs and ask them to show themselves, and they do, and then he captures film of them. Larry is strictly a technology guy, an analyst, and he will analyze video that other people have taken, and he has taken himself over Blue Springs Lake. He's captured, I don't know how many UFOs going in and out of that lake. And then he analyzes them frame by frame. And then as for my part, you heard what I do. I use telepathy and remote viewing. They're everywhere all the time. And literally, I have seen at times hundreds of them at the same time. And moving so fast, they're moving in and out, forward, sideways, circular motions that you just can't even fathom. But this is happening. And I think the public is becoming aware of this. So there you go.
Well, it's funny that you read that article because I used that article as the substance for one of my articles. And here was my title: Pentagon admits UFOs are real. Nobody cares. Something huge has just happened in history, and everybody's upset about a germ, about flu.
That.
Right. So
and
what
so
about
many
the
other things
timing
are-
of this?
Yeah.
Do you think it was timed that way?
There is talk that it was timed that way. There is actually talk about the government planning on giving out a lot more information. There's some talk about them shutting the news down, shutting the internet down for 3 days. And then when it comes back on, for like another 3 days, they're going to run 3 8-hour shifts of what they've been doing, what they want to let out. Word is they are working on getting a lot of the child trafficking taken care of right now. Possibly they got a lot of kids out of the tunnels in New York. If they did, excellent, most excellent, keep it up. But this goes into some of the world leaders, so this has to be done very quietly. And this would be a perfect time to do that because everybody's where? In their house. They're not out on the streets. So there's less people to see things happen. So I mean, if that's going on, that's great right there, because that's going to help raise the vibration of the earth in itself, you know, just by saving those kids and getting them back on track. The elites, adrenochrome, look up that word. It's
a
real
year
thing.
ago, I wrote about UFO disclosure now. So a year ago was now. A year ago, we had the Tic Tac video surface the previous December. And Luis Alessandro talking about that, To the Stars Academy talking about that, various people talking about that it was real and genuine. And my conclusion as a ufologist was these Navy pilots were under so much pressure. This is the psychological ramification of this not being able to talk about. You must be crazy if you believe in UFOs. And by the way, these pilots on these carriers, the Nimitz group and such, when they got back and said they'd seen UFOs, their crewmates did ridicule them. They did give them a hard time about it. They got razzed. Okay, even the guys they worked with,
but
gave them a hard time.
They had so much evidence. They had the radar operators on the ships that saw them too. So
they had plenty of evidence. Yeah. But these guys, the people who are actually seeing this stuff through the annals of U.S. history and other nations' histories in the United States. In my book, I talk about the Malmstrom incidents, where UFOs show up and switch off nuclear warheads.
Yeah.
Arrays of them, 10, 12 at a time, turn them all off, bring them back up. Actually, I'm not sure they even brought them back up, but just we're more powerful. We can shut it out. So when Margie talks about they're making deals, we'll give you goodies, but you must put down your nuclear weapons. Historically, none of the major powers wants to do that because war is good profit. And we're just not that evolved, apparently, as a race. We're not ready as a race. Some of us are ready, and we're here to help others get ready. Yeah. But the majority apparently are not ready, which is sad but true. What are you going to do? Here, the Pentagon has come out and said, these videos leaked out. We're sorry that happened, but we're going to stand by our pilots. What they said was true. So a year ago, the spin was what the pilot saw was true. The hardware was real, but there was denial that there were alien intelligences behind the hardware. So we're left with no explanation. Where did this stuff come from?
Yeah, exactly. So the Pentagon says they're unknown objects. Well, that's admitting there is something out there they know nothing about.
This is huge. This is a huge story.
It would be front page news if there was no coronavirus. I think you're both right. It's a cover up. It's a way to get. It's like the October surprise.
Tell us what that is.
Something terrible. Well, it's in politics every year in October. There's some big surprise that's so shocking it takes over else, and then everything else is buried in the back page of the newspaper, or in this case, a little tiny article here or there, and nobody pays any attention to it. But it's the biggest story of the century.
Like how Rumsfeld announced a $2.3 trillion money not accountable in the Pentagon budget the day before 9/11/2001, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that sort of thing, exactly.
So I think you're right. And other things. Other conspiracy synthesists are, I'm getting a little off topic here, but other conspiracies are afoot that the globalists are using the lockdown as a means to roll out 5G because there's no assemblies of over 10 people or whatever. So people can't gather to protest.
Yeah, and 5G, let me touch on it. It doesn't have the same wavelength as 3G and 4G. It doesn't go as far. Therefore, they have to have more towers. They have to have towers everywhere in a city. And this radiation is not good. It's already killing birds and bees. It's making people sick.
It's killing trees. I wrote an article on killing trees, and they're disguising it as trees, pines or palms. Go ahead, Keith.
Yep, and the map of the Corona rollout and the 5G rollout, it's similar. I'm not saying that's what it is because this virus is real. I've already stated that, but radiation sickness can also cause the same sickness or the same symptoms, some of the same symptoms as this virus. So it's it's 5G isn't a good thing, and you're going to start seeing protests. People are going to start coming out once their kids start getting sick, once their pets start dying off. It's going to happen.
I saw recently, it was an article or something on Facebook. Maybe you guys know who wrote this, but this person said that over the years, every time there's been a technological change, there's also been illness. So in the 1800s, when they brought out the telegraph, people were sick with the flu. In 1918, they came out with radio. I believe this was the one. And there was the Spanish flu. And every time there was a new technology introduced, there was sickness. And now, what do we have? We've got 5G and the coronavirus around the entire world at the same time.
Right. It's like the human body had to get used to the new wavelength.
Yes.
Those wires, they put out a field. They put out a magnetic field, an EMF field.
Yeah, and a frequency that's going through us.
Yes. And so our body has to get used to that. And that can actually change your DNA. A virus can change your DNA. Our DNA already has virus DNA in it, from the human's development. It gets pretty deep in that. But yeah, I don't like the 5G. I don't like it at all. Mm-mm.
I don't either.
And then there's all sorts of other kinds of legislature being pushed through in the midst of all this social upheaval and chaos. And I don't want to delve into the sordid politics of bipartisan America, but who would have thought, when I was joking as a younger person about we're living through the decline of civilization as we know it, as I watched the rise of fast food culture, the rise of plastics over wood and metal, especially metal made products, the vanishing landscape of manufacturing and the outsourcing of jobs to other countries. Also, the totalitarian debit credit system moving toward the cashless society, which had been a warning to me in the 1980s by a guy who said he was former CIA, and this is where we're all going. All of this is happening all at once, and it hardly seems, it's certainly coincidental, but it doesn't seem accidental. Mm-hmm. And yet most people, I blush to call them sheeple, but I will, accept the mainstream information. We know now that the World Health Organization computer models were wrong. We know that about them. And so I wrote an article about, let us re-examine any national policy based on WHO data, because it's all suspect now. So do we really, and we could go on and on about that. I don't want to stray too far from the topic. That was excellent.
It makes you realize you can't trust anyone, especially the government.
Well, we have to take arms against this theft of our civil rights, trampling. And a lot of us were willing to go along with 15 days to slow the spread. That made 2 weeks, we can do that. But then that immediately got pushed back to Easter and in April, then the beginning of May, beginning of June, now 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, maybe never. We'll never go back. There'll never be normal again. It'll be a new normal. I don't want a new normal. And it's not that the old days were the good old days. And I know, Margie, you talked about a natural progression, and Keith talked about positive benefits of all this. So yes, there's positive benefits, but I don't want a new world order world where I have to prove that I'm germ-free when these germs are everywhere and the numbers are being misrepresented, and it's not the pandemic in the United States that it is perhaps elsewhere. Yeah. And the precautions are not necessary, and yet liberties are being seized right and left. I'm a firm patriot, and what's going on, a lot of what's going on is down and out unconstitutional.
I so totally agree with that. We are guaranteed rights by the Constitution, and they're slowly being taken away from us.
They're not, it's not even slow right now. It's rapid.
Well,
That's why I'm
I'll give you that.
alarmed. And being the Paul Revere, as are we all, I think.
Yeah, I'll rephrase. They've slowly been taken away from us, and now it's, okay, you're staying home. You can't go anywhere. You can't be on the streets. That's not right. I don't agree with it. The numbers are skewed. You know, they were coding. They told the doctors to code every death as COVID. And if you go back and look at, okay, this guy had a heart attack. That's not from COVID. He might have had it, but that's not what caused his death. That was a heart attack. But yet he still gets counted as a COVID death. When you separate, the numbers drop dramatically. It's even more off from their model. It's crazy.
It's crazy. And think about what Margie just brought to the show, Taboo Topics with Jean Broida, broadcast every Sunday night, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time in the United States and Canada on my YouTube channel, Taboo Topics with Jean Broida at tabootopics.life/shows and simulcast on the Global Enlightenment Radio Network.com. Margie is talking about how the Pentagon has just dropped this bombshell news that the Navy pilots who saw the Tic Tac UFOs, those were genuine videos. Those pilots really saw craft not of this world. This Commander Fravor has been on record quite a bit, and he stands by his story, and other pilots are standing by this whole story. Okay, so we have a government. Let's review. This ties in with my book too, Unknown Objects, the Top 10 U.S. UFO Cases, which has an underlying theme of U.S. government cover-up. Okay, so for decades, since the 1940s, the U.S. government has said there is no such thing as UFOs, and if you think so, you are crazy. Okay, so now it's, and then 75 years later, the Pentagon says, well, yes, they saw, some Navy pilots did see UFOs. And you know, if they saw them in that one, and this was not just an isolated incident, this was weeks over months of time that these things would continue to show up and buzz these ships. Basically, they're just going about their business probably, and maybe they have an interest in the ships, who knows. But people in the armed forces have seen and reported or not reported UFOs for decades. And the government kept saying, you're crazy to believe it, you're crazy to believe it. And these servicemen can't say anything, and they do deathbed confessions because they're just racked with anxiety over not being able to share this vital truth that we're not alone, that there's alien forces really at play on Earth. And after 70 some years, United States government through the Pentagon says, well, we lied to you all along. Now we're being told by the same government that there's a world pandemic and that the United States is at risk, and therefore we must give up not just one liberty, but people have been told to go home. Their work is non-essential, unemployment, social distancing. So keeping people at arm's length, literally, is that for radar tracking or cell phone tracking? Somebody has proposed that we cannot be an aggregate. They can't separate an aggregate on thermal monitoring and stuff like that, tracking of people, digital tracking. And at the same time, the masks, which somebody has said have been historic for slaves and as a mark of people. It's a symbol of suppression, a sign of suppression. All these things going on at once. And people are like, also media muzzling, okay, free speech under attack. Truthers being taken off of social media, right and left, every day. Things are changing hourly. This is very sobering and very concerning. So whether you call yourself a patriot or not, if you're a humanist, this should alarm you, it seems to me.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned the masks as a mark. The implants that they want to start putting in along with these vaccines. Okay. Mark of the beast. Something to think about.
I thought it was microchips, but the microchips go in the vaccine. They've got these, they call it smart dust, little computer chips so small, they look like a piece of dust. Nanotech.
not
thing.
taking the vaccine.
I am not either.
What if you have to take the vaccine or not get a driver's license?
I got 2 feet.
Not doing it. Not doing it.
What if you have to take the vaccine or you can't have a bank account?
I got cash until they take that away too.
Cash.
You'll
Yeah.
pay your mortgage in cash? I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm with you. I'm on your side. But,
this is just the sort of thing
this
that
gets
could
really
cause
real.
Civil war. This could cause civil war. It could cause riots. It could cause states to secede from the union. It could cause, I mean, people are already protesting in places where they're not allowed to protest.
Yeah.
Which is their constitutional right. But
yes,
they're doing it anyway because they see what's coming. They see the writing on the wall. I don't think people in the United States are going to stand for this. I don't know about other countries, but I don't think we will.
Well, one remedy would be if the president called off the national emergency, lifted the national emergency. That would lift the emergency powers from the governors.
Right. That needs to be done.
And
the governors, some of them are.
Get us more quickly back to, I'm not saying that'll ever be the old normal. I'm not saying we want to go to the old normal necessarily, but
no, I
don't want to have to wear a mask forever and ever. I don't want to have to wear an ID bracelet. I don't want to have to get vaccinated. I don't want a chip. I don't want tracking and monitoring about this germ. I don't want it.
I'll go move to one of these very, very, very low populated states and live in the middle of nowhere with no one around me. I will do that. But
well, I've got a question for you, Margie. The tech you said they were using for seeing these entities and these ships, and some people may think I'm nuts for saying this, and I don't care. All the best people are. In my investigations, we have ran into aliens. I can see them here. I can talk with them here. They are very strong. Some of them are very difficult to deal with, very difficult to get to leave the property. They won't say what they're doing there. Could that technology be used to see an individual alien, say, in somebody's home or on their property?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Because in the book, I explain why I believe that it's not only craft that are fast movers, but ETs that are fast movers as well.
And possibly interdimensional.
They operate fifth dimensionally, interdimensionally, and higher dimensions. And they've been captured. I've seen them, other people have seen them, cases I've worked on, people are seeing them and describing them and even have pictures of them. You can get them on a regular camera, but it's best to have a high-speed camera with as many frames per second as you can get and use video. Because in the video, then the analyst can take it apart frame by frame and see things. Now, I'll bet you anything that you've already got in your hands video from some of your cases, that if you take those down frame by frame, and this will take you hours and hours and hours, believe me. But if you do it, you're going to see things in there. Just with regular standard, doesn't have to be IR, although IR is good. It captures more of the light spectrum. So, I mean, I think that this sort of technology, and the reason we wrote the book was to get it out there to the public, so more of the public will try doing this and get more evidence out there and start posting, because you're going to see things you would not believe. I mean, I've seen ET standing in yards. I saw an ET once standing right next to me, less than 2 feet standing from me. And he 3 times, but each time he disappeared. Well, he didn't disappear. It was my mindset that did it. It was my vibration, because I lowered my vibration by being shocked. See? But then when I calmed down again, there he was again, easy to see. And sometimes the ETs are funny. They are shocked when you see them, and they have this like shocked look on their face, and they back up, and they're like, whoa, and they back into a wall or something. Have you had that happen?
I have had that happen,
Yeah.
and it is hilarious. It's like Santa Claus meeting the green M&M. They do exist.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, some humans can see us. Yeah, but that's going to keep happening. I mean, not only because we're expanding our own psychic centers, but because we've got technology now that can capture them as well.
Yeah. One more thing I'm going to throw in.
Same with ghosts. Same with ghosts.
That.
Absolutely. Yes.
Your pineal gland. It's
Yeah.
fluid filled. There are literally crystals in it. There are rods and cones around it, like you have in your eye. That's why they call it the third eye.
Yes.
The more chemicals, aluminum, fluoride you ingest, it solidifies and calcifies that pineal gland. So your vibration lowers. You can't use your third eye like you're meant to. So
Right.
if you can remove and detoxify your body from those chemicals, over time, you can start removing those, and staying hydrated is important as well. Because like I said, it is fluid filled.
Yeah.
But once your third eye opens, it's amazing what you can do and what you can see and what you can hear and what you can feel. Being an empath, I'm really having to block a lot right now because there's a lot of negativity out there. And I think a lot of people are feeling that and don't know what it is. And it's just crippling them.
You know, I've heard exactly the same thing about the pineal gland, and that it accumulates fluoride and other toxins through the lifetime. So when you get older, the effect is more pronounced.
Mm-hmm.
And there
Yes.
are cleanses you can do to well, obviously you would want to stop using fluoride products, and you'd want to get a water filtration system, probably reverse osmosis, to take out fluoride, something
Right.
fluoride specific. Because I don't, carbon filters can't, most of them, is my understanding, they won't extract fluoride. But get away from the fluoride. And you can go to Chinese doctors. I'm seeing one now who is testing for the presence of heavy metals in my glands that accumulate in the glands, and the body is incapable of flushing them out. And we just weren't meant to live so long, genetically speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or we're short-lived, depending on who you look at. We were engineered to go 150 years, and then meddlers came along and cut our lifespans in half. But be that as it may, modern science is prolonging life and also allowing more births. So we have larger population. I hesitate to say overpopulation, but we certainly have an extension of longer life, and it's frankly unnatural. It's unnatural. So there are byproducts of that,
Yeah, didn't they say like Noah was supposed to have lived like 300 years? The lifespan of the human way back then was so long.
900.
Was it 9? Okay.
But those guys were close descendants of the Anunnaki, who had interbred with humans,
right? Who were
and genetically mixed to create Adam and Eve. That's my understanding.
Yeah,
how that worked.
Their kings were kings for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Methuselah lived 900 years. Yeah, and Enoch. No. Oh heavens! Emerald tablets of Thoth. Thoth lived hundreds of years. He was a man who became as a god. That's his story in Atlantis.
Part God. Yeah.
The gods.
They genetically.
Well, I'll have to have you both back on. But this is because we could talk. That'd be a great thing to talk about. All that stuff. The emerald tablets of Thoth and Enoch and all. Oh my! There's so much going down on Paranormal Street. I really couldn't. I could not do Taboo Topics with Jean Broida every Sunday night, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time in the United States and Canada, on my YouTube channel of the same name, tabootopics.life/shows, and on the Global Enlightenment Radio Network.com. If it weren't for my fine, well-tuned, knowledgeable, and experienced panelists, this episode, May 3rd, 2020, we have been graced with the presences of Margie K. and Keith Ottersberg. Margie, please tell viewers all about your ongoing projects. Recap your book, if you please, websites, how people can contact you. Shout it out for us here.
Okay, my latest book is coming out first week of June. It's called The Fast Movers by myself and two other gentlemen, Bill Spicer and Wayne Lawrence. And I'm really excited about that. I just had one published 2 weeks ago called A Sonoma County Phenomenon. And it is about an investigation I've been working on for years. I was referred to this witness by Art Campbell, who's a longtime UFO researcher and author. And she has the craziest portal over her house with unbelievable photographs. And that is out right now. It's on Amazon. I also have just before that, I wrote a book called the Remote Viewing Workbook. And it teaches people how to remote view, how to decalcify the pineal gland, how to activate the psychic center. And then I also do a class called the Remote Viewing Workshop, and I'm doing one next month. I split into 2 days, May 23rd and 30th, and it is via Zoom. So it can be anywhere and take the class. And all my books and my appearances, which, well, there's no appearances right now, but doing this Zoom meeting is on my website at margiekay.com, MARGIEKAY.com.
So how many books have you written?
13.
13 books, girlfriend. Way to go.
Yeah. And got more. I've got 3 more in the works right now.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool. And I'm publishing a couple of books in the next few months by 2 other authors that are fantastic. I think people are going to love them.
What brought you into the topic of ufology?
Oh, I didn't know it until later in life, but I was visited by ETs before I was 1 year of age. So I had this in my subconscious mind, and I had an interest in it. But then in 1985, the same year I met Val Thor, I was in Seattle with my brother and my 2 daughters, and we saw a UFO. And there was no mistaking what it was, and it just completely was the deciding factor for me. I'm going to investigate these, and I'm going to find out what's going on. And at that time, I was very naive, and I did not have any clue what I was getting into and how complicated the subject is and how many different facets there are and how many millions of witnesses have had things happen and abductions and all of that. And then you factor in related subjects like Bigfoot and crop circles and animal mutilations. You have to learn about all that stuff. Well, I'm not done learning. So
how old were you in Seattle when you saw that UFO?
I was 29, 28, 29.
So you're really a lifelong researcher.
Oh, yeah. And the paranormal since
done.
age 11, paranormal and ghosts. I saw my first ghost at age 11, so I needed to know what that was. 29. Yeah, I still don't have all the answers.
29.
Thank you, Margie.
29 is 11.
Ah, okay. And the number that follows me around is 1111.
Well, that's why I write as Lightworker 111. I see ones on digital displays everywhere.
1111 is the number of the twin flames.
Yeah.
Keith, shout it out, buddy. What are you up to? How can people contact you?
Contact us. We have a website. It's cobraparanormal.com. You can drop us an email there. We've got links to different stones, stuff like that. We're also on Facebook. I have a group and a page. It's Cobra Paranormal. And then also the Spirit Mechanics. We are also, the Nebraska chapter of them. So there's their page also. You can message us there. We're always throwing out new content to help people learn, to try to help enlighten people, get that knowledge out. Right now, I'm starting to work on my book a little bit more finally. Hopefully I'm going to get that finished up here, but if I'd have been stuck at home, I might have had it done, but I'm still going to work. So I'm doing it here and there when I get time. So I got the book.
What's your book going to be about? Your experiences?
My experiences, my possession, and then how my life changed after that possession was removed from me. And then I've got plans for a second, a third, possibly going into some of the cases that were related, stuff like that. So I got my journey planned out. I just got to get there.
Well, the longest journey starts with a single step, and I wish you the best possible outcomes for it sounds like your first book project.
Yes.
Your first book, and perhaps a trilogy. Well, if you're going to think big, might as well think really, really big. And Margie K., exactly. I am humbled by your bibliography. I myself have one book out, Unknown Objects, the top 10 U.S. UFO cases. I write enough daily articles to fill a book a week, but with all the other things I have going on, I haven't assembled any collections yet. Not to say I wouldn't or couldn't or shouldn't, but I'm having a lot of fun with this show, Taboo Topics with Jean Broida, on Sunday night, 7 to 9 p.m. I also write on a daily basis for the dailyconspiracy.com as Lightworker111. You can go to my website, lightwork111.com, and see some samples of my work there. And I invite anyone interested in dialogue, civil dialogue, if you please, or who would like to be a guest panelist on a future show, please email me, Jean, Jean, at lightwork111.com. You can find my book at amazon.com, either as paperback or as a free ebook read on Kindle Unlimited. There you have it. Spit that out. Well, we have about 30 seconds. I just want to say I am so grateful to have two sterling guest panelists in Margie K. and Keith Ottersberg. I wish you the brightest of blessings and the smoothest sailing life can give within the parameters of our prior soul agreements.
Thank you, and same to you.
Thank you, Jean. Same to you.
Time has flown, and we are having fun. So with that, I say what I say every week. That's our take on it. Thank you, everyone, for listening to Taboo Topics with Jean Broida on my Taboo Topics YouTube channel at tabootopics.life/shows and at Global Enlightenment Radio Network.com. See you next week. Over and out.
One day, this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment.